Hello, radio listeners. Thank you for tuning in to Inspirational Vibes with Sabrina, a part of the Jerry Royce Live International Network. Thank you for tuning in. Today's topic will be focused on dealing with medical diagnosis and dealing with injuries, as well as providing care for those that we love who have fallen into different medical illnesses. I can speak a little bit on this topic from experience because growing up, I had to experience some of my loved ones go through different medical diagnoses. On my father's side, sickle cell runs heavily in our family, and I had two first cousins who, had the disease, and one of them, he still lives with it today. And with that diagnosis comes a lot of pain, a lot of hospital visits, a lot of rehab, and even later some surgeries, can come upon you just from the very essence of what all that disease involves. So growing up, I would watch him, suffer and watch them, try to succumb to the pain that they were experiencing. And it was very hard to process, as a younger person. As I grew older, I also bared witness to some of my family members developing cancer, as well as developing certain heart diseases. And as a child, again, it is very hard to process these things. But it wasn't until adulthood, when I was a freshman or a sophomore in college, I remember my sister Carmela took sick, and she had to be hospitalized due to poor blood circulation. And that later led to her having to amputate one of her legs at the time. And it was very hard for all of us to deal with. But I remember my mother being very strong, as well as my dad and my family in general. Even though it was very hard for us all to deal with, we did the best that we could to be supportive to my sister because we wanted her to be encouraged through it all as the patient. And I learned a lot about what it meant to be strong when being dealt with adversity. At the time, she was a school teacher. She worked for the Richland County School District. And she knew that after this operation, she may or may not be able to return to the classroom. And a couple of years later, she went on to lose her other leg because of medical issues. And with that, we knew then that she would probably no longer work again. And that was one of the hardest pills for her to swallow because she enjoyed working with her students. She worked, lastly, in a special needs classroom. And she just enjoyed being there for those children who may have not received the love and support that they needed to from other sources, but she did that for them. One of the main things that helped her through was constant prayer and constant support from us as her family members. Even though it is continuously hard, it still is hard for her because, again, she had found what her mission was in life and what her true passion was, and that indeed was teaching. She went to Claflin University and majored in early childhood. So she took joy in being a part of the educational system and giving back to those students. So when her medical illness caused her to pull away or have to, revert back to not working, it was mentally, challenging for her to deal with and to cope. And then also adjusting to disability salary, because it is a lot different between having disability income and having, income that you substantiate through actually working. So all of those things were adjustments for her. And it continues to be. And it hit home even more so for me in 2007. Prior to that time, I was accustomed with working multiple jobs. I taught in the evening, and I was an internal auditor by day. And I enjoyed what I did, even though it tired me out completely sometimes. But I did have an extreme joy for it. I loved audit because it was something new, fresh, and different with every audit that I went on. And it was internal, so I only had to deal with one college system. So I enjoyed that a great deal. It was like working with my friends and my peers in different areas all of the time. So I truly enjoyed that. And teaching, just like my sister, it was one of those things that we found that we just really enjoyed doing. We knew that was what our, ideal profession was, and we just wanted to continue with doing it for life. And I taught on the career college level and in technical college systems, and I just enjoyed it such a great deal. And in 2007, I got hit with congestive heart failure. And at the time, I didn't know a whole lot about it. I didn't know what kind of changes was really going on with my body. All I knew was I had a stent with what my doctor diagnosed as walking pneumonia. And, it damaged my heart. But then, after that, I had to deal with the ramifications of now having a heart condition. By 2009, the stress with continuing to work, those long hours, not really knowing what all I was doing to my body, not really knowing what adjustments I needed to make to take care of my health, like lowering my salt intake, lowering the amount of fluids that I was taking in. I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge about what were the do's and the don'ts about CHF. And by 2009, it really caught up with me, and I got more sick. I experienced the loss of my significant other. We weren't married, but a very special guy that I was dating at the time. Those things coupled with the stress from the job, it really, it just caused my heart to decline even more. So by 2010, I had to have surgery, and then, I too had to come out of work. So that was indeed an adjusting year for me. I had to yield to my faith, yield to people helping me to do things that I would normally do on my own, and even yield to going back to live with my parents for a short period of time, because again, I just couldn't carry out normal activities like I did. And leading up to the surgery and post-surgery, I needed a caregiver there to provide for me. And that in large was my mom, my father, and my sisters. They did the best they could, traveling back and forth from Columbia to Charleston to be with me, as well as many other aunts, uncles, cousins, church members, and friends. I had the support of many people, and that helped carry me through. I even remember on my last day in the hospital, my friend Anita Wilson came down. She was Wilson at the time, now Anita Rawls. And the last lap that I took in that hospital stay, she was with me, because, whenever you have surgery, you have to prove to them that you are now capable of doing things on your own again. And one of those things is just simply walking around. They like to see you walking in the halls and different things of that nature. And one of my last laps was with my friend Anita, and I will always treasure that memory. And another time, I remember my friend Jamila, she came and actually curled my hair while I was in the hospital, Jamila Gatson. And I will never forget those things. I'll never forget that when I woke up from my surgery, my family was around my bed, and we were singing hymns together and praying. And those are the things that helped me go forward with it, and just helped me to recover mentally and physically. And I had an awesome, medical staff there at Medical University of South Carolina. But it is an emotional bit dealing with medical diagnosis that you haven't had before, or things that you may have even had even as a youth, because sometimes we're born with certain conditions. One of my good friends, Lee Lambert, in our hometown area, her son was born with a condition called Charge syndrome. And, it just encompasses so many things. So whether we're born with our condition or whether something happens to us later on in life, that brings on a condition to us, it is still a coping process. It is still a healing process that we have to go through. And there are a number of things that can help us to deal with it. First of all, we have to determine that we're going to be stronger than that condition. We have to determine that our faith and our fight is going to be stronger than what we have. I know, like, I've heard the phrase, I know, like, a couple of my friends, they have lupus, and I've heard them say things like, I have lupus, but lupus doesn't have me. And it really made me think about it. You know, like, if you have in your mindset that even though you know you have this diagnosis, but it does not dictate your life, it doesn't mean that it's going to take over your life, and you're going to be stronger than what that condition is. You know, you're not going to allow whatever it come along with that condition to cause you to cave in, to cause you to not to try, and to cause you not to have a sense of normalcy that you would the best of your ability, you know, as if you didn't have that condition. So our mindset is one thing that we have to have in check. Prayer and having a good support system really helps us. You know, it takes a faith in God to help when doctors are giving you bad news and telling you, you know, you may have X amount of time to live, or now that you are living, you're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life, or you may have to undergo surgery, or you may never be able to walk again or work again, or you may have to rely on some type of medical a device or medication for the rest of your life. You know, I think of the people with insulin, you know, diabetes who have to inject themselves with insulin or other pills, or those who may have respiratory disease and they have to carry around oxygen tanks, those who may have been diagnosed with cancer and have to undergo chemo. So all of these things can have an indeed bearing on us. I think of my friends who have suffered from kidney disease and had to go through dialysis. And it was only a few years ago that I really realized that dialysis means that you have to literally get the blood cycled in and out of your body, cleansed, and then put back in order for you to survive, because your kidney can't do that particular function for you anymore. And I just thought, oh my goodness, that is such a major thing to have to deal with. So it definitely takes prayer and supplication to deal with those types of things, and a strong faith. And we have to rely on those who we know are in our corner, who can provide us with the support we need. That may be a family member, that may be special friends that you have in your life, the medical staff that you rely on, whatever resources you can grab a hold to. It is so good to do that. And it's also good to fellowship with those, whether it is through a support group or some type of group that your hospital or medical care facility may be associated with, that can connect you with other like people. I have an LVAD, and we have an LVAD warrior support group on my Facebook page, or on my Facebook group. You know, it's only for us who are caregivers or who have these devices ourselves, and it really means a lot when I can just go and reach out to them and say, hey, have y'all ever had to deal with this, or what does this mean if your pump does this, or just whatever the case may be. So it really means a lot to have those people who you know are going through what you have gone through, or going through, or have gone through what you have gone through, if they no longer experience those conditions, but can tell you about how they overcame certain things. It could be as simple as the insurance process, or how to file a claim, or whether you can get this type of service if you have this type of coverage. It's a number of different questions you can ask those who also have gone through that. And also, usually the hospitals will have some type of caseworker or social worker on staff who can help you with those types of questions as well. Because a lot of different questions will come up when you have an ongoing condition that you have to deal with and continuously have services for. So having that support, you know, of family, friends, and those other like people who have gone through similar challenges, it means a lot. It means having a peace of mind that you otherwise may not have had. because nothing is worse than feeling like you are alone in your condition or in your situation. But having those who have had, who are willing to support you or willing to carry you through, it really means a lot. My mom, Betty Brown, she only missed maybe 1 or 2 nights, and I had a very extended stay in the hospital. It was over 6 weeks, but my mother was always by my side. I remember her going home one time just to get some new clothes, and that was about it, And my father came back and forth again, my sisters and my aunts and uncles, and they just poured into me, and I really loved them for that. And so many church members and things of that nature. And when I came home, that same outpouring continued. And it really made a difference in me willing myself beyond that point and getting forward to the next recovery ahead. And I just appreciate them even to this day for doing that and just for being there. So that support and that network really can help you to carry you through, because again, your mentality will get challenged by having to deal with these things. So it takes those level of support to help carry you through. And again, just having that will to live beyond where you are, because just like the condition came upon you, it can also change. I do believe in miracles. I do believe in healings. I do believe in medical research. You hear all the time about certain tests that are run on certain people that help them to cope with certain things. I even see, like where individuals may have lost a limb, they now have 3D printing devices that can even help, develop prosthetics so that those individuals can have an arm again or a leg again and things of that nature. So medical technology and medical advancements, all of these things are out there. And then the supernatural of God, it is still supreme as well, So I believe that, anyone can be healed from anything at any given time just by what God allows. And I just encourage those, not to give up who are experiencing some type of diagnosis. I have one friend, who she has a blood condition that causes her to have to be hospitalized from time to time. But her resiliency is stronger than anyone I know who has had to go through such things. It's like sometimes when I check on her, she'll be just coming out of the hospital, but a week or 2 later she may have to go back in for something else. But her spirit is always high. She sends out motivational and spiritual, texts each morning or at least every other day. And just for her to be going through the things that she goes through, but still to have that spirit and that hope and that belief, it just shows so much about her character. And if we can foster that same spirit, then it can really mean a lot for the way that we cope and the way that we get through where we are. And one thing I want to encourage people not to do is not to allow your medical condition or any adversity that you may come up in life to make you bitter or to make you down on yourself. So many people have self-esteem challenges after, having diagnosis. And I have my days where I'm not as upbeat and, I have my little woe is me little events. But I try my best to quickly get over those and realize that I'm still here. I'm still blessed. There's so many things that I still have to be thankful for. And I lean on those things. And don't allow it to make you bitter. I know this one particular lady, she has lost so much in life. And it seems to have made her attitude bitter about how she deals with people and her whole outlook. And how she deals with those sometimes who are even closest to her. So I just encourage us not to take on that spirit, because even in our sickness, even in our illnesses that we suffer from, or those, sometimes it's seeing our loved ones suffer. It's hard to swallow those things also. But it's good for it not to allow us to change our attitude. And if ever we need an example of how to react, if we read in the book of Job, it really showed how he lost so much and how the sickness overtook him till the flesh came from his bones. However, his spirit was never affected by it negatively. He always believed that God would heal him. He always believed in brighter days, and God allowed him to totally recover. It took a long time. It took him losing his wife and some friends and so many people out of his life, but yet God gave him so much more in the end. So if we can hold on beyond where we are now, beyond what that diagnosis may be, even if you have to deal with it forever, we are still dealing. We never know what life is going to bring to us. We never know what the next day is going to bring. And so many people, who are not dealing with a medical condition, it is good for you not to feel that you are still untouchable, because you can be up today and down tomorrow. And it's not to sound pessimistic, it's just realistic, because we never know what the next day will hold. But no matter what we're faced with, it is always good to keep the faith. It is always good to be uplifted. And it is always good to know that we can go beyond where we are, and we can go beyond what that condition may say for us. Because we are not our conditions. We are still someone's son, someone's daughter, someone's husband or wife, or someone, teacher, or someone mother or father, sister or brother. And we have to embrace those things. We are still who we are put on this earth to be. And we can allow our conditions to allow us to be a beacon of light for someone else. So many people can get inspired by your resiliency to that condition, that it allows others to give them hope through things that they're going through and keep them in check, about certain things. So I pray that we will foster those spirits, and we will allow ourselves to have those type of mindsets instead of allowing them to bring us down. And again, we know that it's a continuous process. It's something that we have to continuously do and live up to. And it's not easy. It's not easy to go from being healthy and upbeat and happy to being, downtrodden by a diagnosis that you didn't see coming, or, something that you may have to deal with for a prolonged period of time. But we can get beyond it, and we can live through it. And I definitely am a witness of that, and I know many others who are as well. So I just encourage all of those who may be going through some type of medical trauma or have been through some type, just to continue to look up and just know that you can still live a beautiful life, and we still have the courage and the strength to do so by God. So I just encourage us to do that, and I encourage us to continue to live on purpose and to know what our purpose is, and to realize the beauty in the simple things, because that can help us to get through as well. God bless, and I thank you for listening to Inspirational Vibes with Sabrina. You can always reach me at my website, www.ablsandpoetrybooks.com. On my contact page, you will see all of my contact information, including my email, phone number, and things of that nature. You will also learn more about the business that I have, as well as my poetry book, Poetic Rhythms of My Heart. So I encourage you to visit it, and I encourage you to listen to the other podcasters at the Jerry Royce Live Experience International at positivepower21.org. Thank you. God bless, and I'm out.